professional with over 2 decades of leadership experience spanning financial services, education, telecommunication, and digital transformation across the African continent. And she has led enterprise scale training functions at both MTN and Nedbank, where she drove learning strategies for over 14,000 employees and led end user readiness for core banking and ERP system rollouts. Antoinette's global footprint includes on-site and remote project work in over 15 countries, underpinned by fluency in 3 languages and deep cross-cultural competence. Antoinette has distinguished herself by ability to integrate learning design, change management, and technology to create agile, result-driven development programs. So that's a caliber of presenter that you have this morning. And Antoinette, we'd like to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. That was a stellar introduction. I feel like I've been introduced to a stranger, but thank you for your kind and good words. I'd like to start off by finding out where the audience are from, because that then also can drive contextual conversation for tonight's presentation. So I see some of my colleagues from Nedbank and MTN. So I'm going to start with you, Lindsay, and then if you'll hand over to the next person to introduce themselves, please. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Hi, Antoinette. Lovely to see you again. I'm Lindsay Martin. I'm based out of Johannesburg. I work in an organization called Can Do Consulting. And let's hear from Deborah Bauer.
Apologies, can you hear me? My name is Debbie Boyer. I work at Nedbank, and I work in a data management and collections department, and we're responsible for large technology infrastructure implementations.
Thanks, Debbie. Antoine, I'm going to pick on you next. Antoine, you're on mute. Okay, we'll move on to Mqobi Madlala.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mqobi Madlala. I work in the Oracle P2P space as a functional analyst from Old Mutual.
Thank you, Mqobi. Next, we'll have KK Diaz.
Hello. Hi, Antionette. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm KK Diaz. I'm actually one of the stakeholders within the SAOUG, and I'm excited to be here and looking forward to learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget, you're next.
Yeah, hi, Antoinette. I'm
Bridget
from the past.
Yes.
Yes, I work for an organization called Ab Initio, and we do a lot of integrations into Oracle kind of databases, and we are quite entrenched in Nedbank as well. And I came across your link on LinkedIn, and I was intrigued. So that's why I'm here today.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Have I included everybody? Left anybody? Debs, I don't know if you want to go, and Michelle.
There's still Annika. Annika, you go ahead.
Sorry, Annika.
No problem. Thank you. So my name is Annika Grover. I'm the change manager currently in the Harmony mining industry.
Thank you.
Linda, did you introduce yourself?
No, not yet.
Oh.
I'm Linda Tradeway. Yes. Hi, Antoinette. I worked with Antoinette at MTN, and also worked for Lindsay before at Can Do. So yes, at the moment I'm self-employed, and yeah, I just like to hear all about this Antoinette speech tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette. My name is Michelle de Craig. I am a change manager for Uptime Consulting, And it's so nice to see some familiar names on the screen. So just good to know that you guys are all out there and curious to know what Antoinette's going to go through today. Thank you.
We've got Tando as well.
Oh, hi, my name is Tando Rosani. I am an Oracle DBA, just to work for Vodacom. Thank you. Looking forward for the sessions today.
Good. Okay, should we start? Okay, so I think to start off with, I want to stipulate that I think we have got incredible talent in South Africa and across the continent. And I think one of my biggest lessons or realizations is that we don't always need to import from Europe or the US when it comes to end user readiness. We've got enthusiasm, we've got commitment, and we've got the real local is lekker vibe going. So I want to acknowledge that as my kickoff point. I think forums such as this are absolutely valuable in spreading the word and also sharing our skill set amongst ourselves, amongst our enterprises. I think we're not reinventing the wheel. A lot of what I'm going to tell you today is time tried and tested, and carrying over from the previous SIG that we had was around change management. And I think we talked about AI, and there's two things that AI can't do. The one is it cannot read the room and it cannot make a judgment call. And that is why we still need the people element. So this is my journey and kind of my intention in getting end users ready, comfortable, and good to drive an application that is at best expensive, but will yield good results. So let's kick off to the next slide, please. So the ultimate equation that we are solving for is readiness. And I think when you understand the interrelationship between the clarity of process, accessibility of knowledge, and the empowerment of people, you really are in the swing of real adoption. And these three pillars or these ingredients need to be integrated across your full project lifecycle. It's not a stop-start. It's from the day the contract gets signed with all your vendors that you start your people readiness process. And the journey begins right at the beginning, not just when training sessions are scheduled. Next slide, please. So I am a keen protagonist of visual communication, and I think the frequency that you refer to your top 5 visuals drives end user readiness and understanding. So for an implementation that we've just done, for example, of the ERP, this visual is constantly referred to and becomes something that is very familiar for our end users so that they can understand where they fit in on the technical landscape. And I think more often than not, there is a bit of a Bambi in the headlights fear factor when you start talking IT and tech, but it is absolutely amazing to journey with people in their curiosity of understanding what actually goes on in the guts of the system that we expect them to be ready and able to drive on day one go live. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So the bedrock of end user readiness is process literacy. It really is the key critical foundation for ensuring success. And before we dive into system clicks, the users need to understand the why behind each step. And one of my really good experiences is this current journey that I'm on at MTN, where they were fastidious about process education before you got into the system education space. So your ticket to the game or your enablement to attend system training was the completion of process training. And it's important that people understand where they fit into the golden thread of a transactional journey, not just their silo click. Someone's inputting and someone's authorizing. The impact is far greater, it's more important, and it just helps with understanding at the end of the day if people have a certain level of process literacy. Next slide, please. So underpinned with the technical slide that we saw with the Fusion technical construct, then this is just an image that we used the whole way through our education journey and readiness journey. And it breaks down the processes that form the bedrock of the ERP, and the individual end users could read into this picture, the sub-processes, and the title of the sub-process was a giveaway as to where their role was, where their function was expected, and where their handover prior and post to their execution actually takes place. So again, this is one of my top go-to visuals, together with the technical landscape visual. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just unbelievably powerful. The inclusion of your end users upfront in your familiarization sessions, in your integration sessions, in your architecture sessions. I have been fascinated by upfront inclusion, irrespective of the fact that it might take you 6 months, 12 months, 18 months before you go live. But if you are continuously communicating and keeping your people up to date with all elements of your project stages and features, it just enables the pre-go live and the go live success much quicker and much smoother. Everybody's on a page, so everybody's on the same page. You break it down into plain language, and there's a shared understanding. People like to have their own conversations and obviously understand amongst themselves what the journey is that you're on and why you're on it. So the communication vehicles are key critical to end user enablement. Next slide, please.
Antoinette, can I ask
Yes.
a question? Yeah, sorry, I can't raise my hand. I just wanted to ask, are you suggesting this with all stakeholders from the start, or sort of a cascading approach based on stakeholder levels?
We've done it for everybody. So, and it's been successful because you can't control what happens between a distribution of a communication, what the consumption of the communication is, and what the interpretation of the communication is. But the consistent messaging of why are we doing this? Is it a strategic intent? Who is benefiting from this? What is the impact on my job? Simple things like what parts of my current job are going to be automated. You bring that all up to the front and you journey those messages right from the beginning the whole way through, and it just kind of creates a smooth ease of understanding. And then at the end of the day, the adoption not only pre-go live, post-go live, and when you're into your business as usual phase. So we always had a macro communication distribution group. We never segregated it. And that's the reference that I make to the technical components are sometimes, you know, with your solution design architect, etc. They may be very specific and they may be tech speak, but it's just part of an education for your end user to understand what does a high-level solution design look like? What does a failed test case mean? And that for me is key critical in everybody understanding how to get to the desired end goal. Yeah, I just think, acronyms, don't make the mistake of thinking everybody understands it the same way all the time. You have to, reinforce and write it out, and, different acronyms. And I've used, WTF as an example because it's a real example of different interpretations. And often your acronyms are great at explaining what your objectives are or what some of your topics are. Okay, thank you. Next slide. So this is another go-to visual for me that we used in our communications. Okay, and it really is useful. It's a nice quick ref. It's project on a page. This is an example of a sustainable farming project, and it also gives your stakeholders and your exec that are bombarded with a lot of information just a high-level view, quickly a synopsis as to where you are, how far down the journey are you, and what's happened, what's completed, and what's coming. So I love this. I love this concept, and I love this tool. It's been really useful and informative in our communication and end user strategies. Thank you. Next slide. So obviously, or maybe not so much to some people, but if people are informed and they understand and you make it make sense, and you answer all the possible questions, you can't undermine the people impact element. And we know that readiness starts with people. We have to understand how the new system or the new application is actually going to affect somebody's daily job. You define your roles clearly up front. The huge dependency on your subject matter experts within the business who have a day job to do, and they've also got the project job to do, is a real consideration. And they become the bridge between the technical teams and the business. And your SME's involvement will make or break your adoption. It is, for me, just imperative that when you identify who your project role players are going to be, that HR, the individual who put their hand up to participate in the project, and the line manager are all aligned as to what does this impact mean. We've had experiences of certain SMEs or certain responsible project members, really burning the midnight oil to the point of having to take stress leave, which is not ideal. So you have to always be mindful of what is the implication and what are you asking your business people to do. Your project managers are saying, we need this to be done. By when will it be done? By when will it be done? And just managing that dynamic is key critical to success. Just be human in the process and be mindful that not everybody can spend 12 hours a day at the office. We've all got lives outside of the office. So I'm a big protagonist of respecting that and being realistic. Thank you. Next slide, Mish. Thank you. So these are just some areas that focus areas for addressing end user readiness, and in your time you can read through the detail. But it's, from understanding your processes, getting feedback, and this just ensures that your readiness is built, it's not assumed. Situations where the wrong people attend, let's give a hypothetical example, a familiarization session where you're asking for system configuration, and the responsibility of the attendee is handed over to somebody else as a stand-in. That error will cost you further down the line, because you need the right people in the right room to make the right decisions as to how they want the system to perform. I'll give you an example of one of the implementations where the mandate to authorize X amount of millions on a transaction was given to an executive assistant function. And when obviously the systems are built for compliance and to mitigate risk, so when you allocate your roles, the executive assistant does not have that permission. It still remains with the executive. And, that was a really good learning for many of our business units that we implemented into, is that you need to own your system driving, you need to own your accountability and your responsibility of what you are enabled to do from a permission perspective on the system. So yeah, it's small lessons along the way like that are key critical to ensuring that when your system is good to go and you deploy, the right people have been in the room at the right time, given the right input, and there's been ownership. Thank you. So in each of our stages, we've got different tools and assets that we use. You can tailor your interventions. You can do your journey board, cheat sheets, feedback portals. There are many ways, and I think it also depends on how your business units function. You've got some phenomenally well synchronized teams that get it and they work as a team, and then you've got situations where people are quite protective. So as you read each of the nuances of the teams that you're implementing into or that are journeying with you, there are many assets for a toolkit that you can use to make sure that you're staying on track and that people are aligned. And people do like to share their knowledge. Not everybody, but the standard practice of let me show you, you show me, and then we do a group exercise is tried and tested and works. I think group activities always cater to people who are maybe more reticent and not as confident, but you'll always find a natural leader and somebody who is keen to take charge and to lead the pack and to ensure the success. So those are your gems. Look after them and collaborate with them and use them in your end user readiness journey. Thank you. So again, this is just reinforcing the different assets that you can use. When you do a change impact matrix and the stock standard exercises, well, what do you know before you've been exposed and what do you know after you've been exposed? For me, that's a bit of a mute metric to use. So quizzes and social communities, suggestions, people identifying efficiencies in the process. Those are good markers of commitment and adoption happening before you actually get into your go live stage of your project. Thanks. Next slide. So this now talks to, again, I am a huge protagonist of process clarity, people understanding the why, the how, the where, the when. I think it's tried and tested that the end goal is that you want to build efficiency, and when you get input from your people where they understand what can be automated from an Excel spreadsheet, for example, then you've kind of met the desired end goal en route with involvement, engagement, and contribution from your end user participants, definitely. Okay, next one, thanks. So one of the best lessons learned for us was, because attending process training or systems training is a bit of a grudge experience, and people need to understand why they have to do it. They need to know how to drive the car because we are shifting systems or upgrading systems, whatever the story is. One of the fear factors, for want of a better word, that we used up front when we were describing the why is we made it very clear that if you logged a ticket at the help desk without having to resolve that internally with your team leader, your team, or a subject matter expert within your business function, and then you could escalate that to your process lead. If it had to leave the constraint of your business and get resolved by your help desk, there was a $200 price ticket attached to the resolution of that query. So I think that upfront notification to the end users to say the reason why you need to get on point and up to date with how to drive the system is because this is what non-compliance or journey participation can result in. So right, that's a bit of just an anecdotal experience. Thanks. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I mentioned this here. You'll see the track adoption. We used a fantastic digital adoption tool called WhatFix, and we tracked from user acceptance testing all the way to go live, business as usual. We tracked user activity in the system. We built reporting functionality that showed us how much time people were spending on each of their sub-processes, where there was a delay in following through on certain transactional steps. And it also told a very good story around how do you resource your business for productivity based on system utilization. And that was a huge kind of success factor with our stakeholders around understanding if you're employed to spend X amount of time on your desktop executing transactions on through an application or on a system, and you're only spending, on a monthly basis, 6 hours a month, the question is, what are you doing with the rest of your time? So we got into, we got into that level of sophistication with our metrics, and that also drove a kind of commitment from our end users to say, I suppose, yes, Big Brother was watching you, but if you're not busy, on the system, where else could you be busy, or what are the other activities that do make up your productivity measurements? So yeah, we're not just building completion or aiming for completion. We're trying to build capability. We're trying to maintain that in-house and enhance on that and make that a sophistication. And I think for those of you who are already on the Oracle Cloud journey with regards to whatever your implementations are, you know that they're quarterly releases. So you have to be on point. Your people have to be up to date. Your training sessions are driven by self-directed learning. They're not facilitated sessions unless those are on demand. We run those ad hoc in MTN currently, if and when required. But in the main, our end user readiness for each quarterly release is driven through our social communities and through our communications, which is managed by our process leads. And I think we've got one more slide, and that's it. Yep. So process before clicks, that's my mantra. Clarity before training, empowerment before dependency. Readiness isn't a checkbox, it's a continuous commitment. And when it's done correctly, transformation becomes a shared success, and it actually is just a really pleasant, smooth transition. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antoinette, for that presentation. Colleagues, would like to open it up to you now, if possibly you have any questions to Antoinette that she can address.
Hi, it's KK. Can't be on camera now. Thanks, Antoinette. Question: you spoke about incentives and disincentives, and I think that's such a powerful way to to not to force people, but to get people to behave in a particular manner, right? Do you find that enough companies, enough clients, push for incentives and disincentives around change? Because I feel it's such a powerful tool, but it's not used adequately. And maybe if you have other examples,
yes,
that'll be great. Thanks.
So if you understand the people factor, and so I'm going to refer to my Nedbank experience, so Debbie can hear me out here, Debbie Boyer. So we were doing an implementation in Malawi. Now, Malawi is the third poorest country in the world, so I need to give context around that. But they do live by their mantra of the warmest heart of Africa, and they really are lovely, happy, enthusiastic people. And in the financial services industry, and I think in any corporate, you can't actually give monetary incentives. That's non-compliant, and the regulator will be all over you like a rash. So what we did was, our currency of incentivization was, we split the business up into groups, and we incentivized them with not gift vouchers, food vouchers, so Pick and Pay food voucher, Food Lovers food voucher, or data vouchers. So we could give to the top performing teams, say 10 Rand data per team member for X amount of transactions completed in the UAT environment, as proof of being able to drive your system for the function that you will be performing in go live on day one of go live. Because I do think that sometimes when you pay lip service to, oh, well, this is going to be part of your KPI, this is part of your balanced scorecard, the incentive needs to be tangible. At the end of the day, the incentive needs to be tangible. And people are very appreciative of anything that is tangible. So whether it's a certificate, whether it's a gift voucher, or not a gift voucher, a food voucher, or a data voucher. Those are practical examples that are not expensive. You can work that into your project, budget, and it just does drive commitment. I mean, we had a teller in that Malawi branch who just the competition was who could do the most transactions in the environment. So they allocated a dedicated teller to just work in the UAT environment, executing transactions. And I think at the end of the competition, he had done 2,000 transactions. I don't think the guy went home. He was incentivized, and they shared it. And that's just a practical example of drive the competition, celebrate the committed individuals, the committed teams, and acknowledge with a certificate, with the voucher. It's not an expensive exercise, and it pays off hugely in the end. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Do you mind if I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
So sometimes I find that it's the seniors, the executives, who actually sabotage projects. Now, what is the I guess the flip side is, if executives are sabotaging the progress of such initiatives, how is that typically dealt with? Is that dealt by human resource, or is it something that is then dealt with in the gambit of the project itself?
I think you stipulate that up front. I've always looked at training as being kind of at the bottom of the food chain in a tech project. They leave that to somebody else to do. So you'll either say, okay, well, have you got your user guide sorted? It's not as simple as that. So the people element and getting my voice at the table at the start of the project, and understanding that if you want your project to be successful, you can throw a lot of money at config. You can throw a lot of money at your subscriptions. If your people aren't on board and aren't ready, they can fail your project for you. I've been on a project where we've had to back out. We had to back out, and we only went back in 6 months later, and that was very expensive. So, for your saboteurs who are probably time-bound and dollar-bound and wanting you to get into production sooner than later, as long as you've got a people voice at your table and you say, that's fine, anything is possible. People will work until midnight. You go live and you've got to get your end-of-day reporting sorted, and you've got to make sure that your year-end reports are ready for submission to the regulator. People will do that. By nature, people are committed. There's the fear factor of, this is my job and I need to hang on to my job, so I'm going to go the extra mile and show the commitment. So I think it works at the top end with your senior management, and at the transactional end with your system drivers. Upfront, HR training must have a voice at the table, and that's why I've always said we've been involved right up front in the familiarization sessions, because you can also read the room and say, your executive might have sent the wrong person to say, oh, well, I've been invited to the familiarization session, so I'm going to send this person as my representative. And that it sometimes can cost you. It can be a dangerous decision. If you're going to commit, then, you want stakeholder representation 100% at the right forums at the right time. That's key critical as well. Okay.
Thanks.
There's a question on the chat, Antoinette. What are
Yes.
some of the challenges to end? What are some challenges to end users? Sorry, let me read that again. What are some challenges to end users, Oracle end users? So I guess the question is, what are some of the challenges the end users face?
So I think what my experience has been is people will not put up their hand and say, I don't understand. The config of the application is designed ordinarily from a compliance and a risk perspective, and from a process efficiency perspective. So if you keep those three things in mind, if your end users understand that, when they don't understand, you need to target that and manage that immediately, because your kind of behaviors will sometimes result in workarounds. So we've invested in this application, and yet some people are still doing manual workarounds because they don't understand the features and the functionality of the application, or how to use the features and the functionality of that application. So where you've got challenges with regards to, and let's say, for example, we speak English. English is my first language. With a lot of my end users, English sometimes is a second language, sometimes is a third language. And if you're using a system trainer who's an Oracle expert, who is not from the continent, who could be from India, let's say, for example, the challenge to understand English first and foremost, and then to understand English with an accent in a training session needs to be managed and addressed. And I'm using that as a very practical example, because if you've just attended a system training session, it doesn't mean that you're proficient and you're good to go on the system. We need evidence that you are able to drive the system. And the way we've always done that is we've said, send proof of execution of a case study in UAT or in pre-prod, just one. Just start off by one and just say just one. Just show us that you can load an invoice, or you understand what a bulk purchasing agreement is. So your continual assessment of your end users helps your end users, and nobody sticks their hand up willingly saying, "Pick me to write an assessment," or "Pick me, I love to do a test." I don't know anywhere in the world where people are like queuing up to write a test. So you have to encourage a safe place for understanding and for questioning and for collaboration. And then also you need to check in on your people as they drive the system. Make sure that they are driving it as it was designed. Okay. Michelle, I see your hand is up. Is that Lindsay?
Yeah, it's a deliberate hand. Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to say your slide that you shared around the landscape and then the process landscape. I'm not sure what you called it. For me, that's just such a critical piece of information for end users to have a visualization and understanding of, to see how they fit into that bigger piece of the puzzle. Because often when we see end user training, in my experience, it's very at a transactional level,
Yes.
but they don't understand the end-to-end integration in their function in the system versus their colleagues' function.
Yep.
So for me, those sorts of bigger picture thinking and communication really help get them across the line. That's the one thing. And the other thing for me, which was quite interesting on a recent implementation, is, because we do this a lot, we are either technical people, Oracle people, training people, we are very familiar with terms like SIT, UAT, whatever these wonderful acronyms are, EUT, so it was quite interesting for me, the education that we needed to do from that point of view to even the project team members, the key stakeholders, the SMEs, to say, guys, you're going to go through this process, and this is why we do this process, and this is what this means, and as an outcome of this process, this is what we aim to achieve. And when we say SIT, this is what we really mean,
Yeah.
and that education up front for me is also mission critical.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think one of the fun activities is to do the acronym quizzes, is to see, okay, do we all know what we're talking about? Are we all talking about the same thing? Because people don't want to ask. It's assumed, it's assumed that you understand, that a bulk processing agreement or purchasing agreement is understood. And meanwhile, it's a trigger for a lot of confusion if you don't understand up front. So I'm 100% aligned with that, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Lindsay?
Antoinette, I would love to know if you've got any tricks to help integrate HR and L&D into these IT projects, because I know they're not supposed to be considered IT projects, but typically your technology team is driving a big implementation or an upgrade. And I feel like sometimes HR, L&D in the business as usual context gets left out of the picture. And it's kind of a bit late when we realize, sure, but what are we going to do in our business as usual or in our run state?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's quite a expectation on a team of people that have got their day jobs, what they consider their normal HR or L&D roles. And all of a sudden they're having to take on quite complex, what they view as quite scary, hairy, complex systems training. So just any tips and tricks as to how you can involve L&D and HR in that process?
So I suppose the ERP implementation was a fortuitous implementation because there's an HCM or an HR element within that. And when you realize that your responsibility from an HR and a learning and development function is to give people the tools to do the job for which you have employed them. I mean, that's what your commitment is to the employee with regards to driving either Microsoft Office or Fusion or NetSuite or whatever it is. So that conversation is to bring to, leave nothing to chance with HR and L&D, and it often is. And that's why I say I feel so often training is at the end of the food chain. But if you make sure that you bring your L&D and your HR people in up front, and even if you have a dedicated person to do that for you, you mitigate a lot of fallout further down the track.
Yeah.
And so my tip is if you hold the truth of I'm giving you the tools to do the job for which you were employed, that's an HR statement. It's not a tech statement. Yeah. That is what HR and L&D are fundamentally in existence for. And so they also need to be up to speed as to what does this tech mean? What is it all about? So you act as a learning and development partner, you act as an HR business partner. If you understand what the nuances of your various business units are, then a technical implementation should make sense to you because it underpins, how you're meeting your strategic objectives, your KPIs, whether it's a core banking system or an ERP. These are the guts of the operations of a business. So I am, a kind of absolute protagonist for get your seat at the table. And if you're in a tech meeting and there's no learning and development, or from a group perspective, or L&D, HR or L&D representation, then you must make a noise and make sure that you bring those people in soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. I agree. I think that it's not, and I feel like sometimes L&D and HR is left out of the selection process of who are we going to select as our training partner or our change partner. So they aren't well represented and they might inherit something that they can't sustain. So we see that all the time, by the way.
Yeah. It is a reality. Yeah.
Just one question from me, Antoinette. We know that your customer experience is tightly coupled with your user experience. If your users are not happy, or they do not know how the system functions, or to get the best use of the system to attain certain results, that will affect obviously your customer experience. How do you get a buy-in from your more senior resources? I'm talking in terms of age, because you get to a stage where some people don't want to learn. They know the system as is. How do you get a buy-in from those? Because you can't lose that experience as well. You can't discard it. How do you?
Yeah, so I think it's around what is the kind of credibility of learning and development within your organization. Like are we future proofing? Are we driving critical skills? Is it only about data science? Do we know that we have to do this to remain relevant? Why do we have to remain relevant? This is a system, and and being brutal and saying this system will ultimately replace what you do if you don't keep up to date with what else the opportunities are, having the system knowledge in your kind of repertoire. So I I think there is an apathy, yes. If people don't enjoy their jobs, full stop. You know, if it's a mundane kind of day-to-day existence of I'm just putting bread on the table, and if I have to do this, I will. And it's hard. It's hard to create, excitement about kind of processing a transaction. You know, it's far more fun to say I'm going off to lunch now with my mates downstairs to the canteen. That's more of an attraction to come to work every day than to process invoices. But I think if you've got your metrics in place, and that is key critical, is if you've got your processes sorted and you've got your cost, time, quality, and risk measures are abundantly clear, and people are measured to that, and you drive by volumes, and you know that your top performer, your top teller is executing 5,000 transactions a month at X time rate. Those elements are healthy drivers. You drive that competitiveness, you drive that competition. And people, I think they subscribe to that. And if you're just doing, kind of mundane day-to-day transactional activities, that's your choice, etc. But once you put those metrics in place and you publish those metrics, and you show we as a corporation decided that we were going to go on this ERP implementation or this core banking implementation journey because we wanted to realize a benefit, and that benefit is at the bottom line. And then how do you measure that? How do you make that communicable back to your users? They need to know that. They need to know that because we've implemented this, we've saved 1,000 hours of transactional time because the system works smarter. People know, where their touch points are, where their handover is. So involve your end users with your business strategy and your business measurement. They're not just there to kind of, sell a product or process a transaction. They are as important to be informed as to how is the greater business doing? How is my business unit doing? Because when you have those performance discussions, you say to them, this was your touch point. I love it. 80%, 100%, 110%. How you prove that? So you've got to make it tangible when you're having the balanced scorecard discussion, is you just did your job or you actually did more than your job. And if you kind of translate those metrics into your conversation, it just drives a healthy adoption. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got 2 more minutes, colleagues, if you have any further question. But just as a reminder, if I may, just as a reminder of our conference, from the 9th to 11th of November, registrations are open, and you guys, if you want to see more of Michelle, you are most welcome to come to the conference. And we really, if you know any students that will be interested in topics such as these, they can come to the conference at a very good rate. We've made it 600 rands for students on the second day of the conference, so they'll gain a lot of benefit from it. So just want us to KK, that is for you, KK. We know that's your passion. So the team
Thanks,
has.
thanks for the headline and the shout out.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So if there's no, sorry, Michelle.
So just to confirm, if there are students that are interested, what is the process? Would we connect with Debbie, or how is there a link on the website for students?
There is a link on the website.
Okay.
Where they have to produce certain proof that they are students.
Okay. So KK. Yeah. Hopefully you're going to get lots of students there.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, good. Good.
Next gen, yeah.
No, thank you, colleagues. We'll close the presentation now. We really appreciated your time, Antoinette, and
You're welcome. Thank you.
insightful thoughts here. Thank you very much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.